Hello, party people. Do you have a good job and you've got some spare time and you're thinking about giving back in the form of blogging, presenting, YouTubing, live streaming, whatever? And you're hoping that in the course of, say, maybe a year of putting work into this, you'll be able to have an easier job search next time. In this session, I'm going to talk through what your different options are, what your work should look like after a year, what you should expect, who your role models should be in this process, people who've made huge progress inside the span of a year, the risks of AI to some of these components, and why you might want to do all of this. Let's go get started. So right now is a really scary time to work in technology. There's all this talk about how AI is going to take our jobs, and genuinely AI has taken some jobs in a weird way, in that sometimes companies will lay people off with the expectation that AI is going to take their jobs. This is not a new thing. This kind of thing has been going on for decades, and I have the gray hair from living through some of these things. There have been all kinds of events where they predicted the death of various tech careers, and a lot of us are still here, although in perhaps different careers than when we first started. One of the things to keep in mind when you're facing a crisis like this is that you're not hired by some technology. You are hired by a human being or a group of human beings. And for the human beings to hire you, they have to know who you are. Ideally, you're going to put out your name and say, I'm looking for new work, and then other people flock to you and say, hey, we'd love to hire you. Or perhaps you email someone you know or a company that you know and you say, I'm looking for work. And they go, throw out the rest of the resumes. We've got the perfect candidate right here. Short circuit this person right to the top of the stack. Branding is the art of making that happen. And branding really breaks down into two simple things. Do good work and talk about it. You can't do only one of those two things. If you only do good work, you're going to find out really quickly that other people have really good BS detectors, and they can tell that you don't really know what you're doing. I see this so often today in the age of AI-driven blog posts and AI-driven presentations, where it's clear that somebody just wrote a prompt into Chat GPT, and they copy-pasted the blog post contents out without actually putting any of their own real-world experience in. On the other hand, if all you do is the good work and you never talk about it, you can fall into a different rut, the rut of secrecy and privacy, where you might be doing amazing stuff, but when you lose your job or when you want to find your next job, you're going to have a heck of a marketing problem because everybody else has gorgeous resumes too. I'm a good example of this. This is the About Me slide that I use on presentations, and I've used for quite a while. I try to convey my history on there, and there are a couple of lines in there that I spent a lot of time on and I was very proud of. I worked as a developer, worked my way up to a systems administrator, worked in hotel technology companies, then went to work for a software company. And even though I was rocketing up through a bunch of positions, I still suffered from imposter syndrome. And I bet if you work in technology, you've heard that term. If you haven't, go check it out on Wikipedia. They have a really good post explaining it. I suffered from imposter syndrome, and then I went to go to work for a company called Quest Software. And they hired me to be an expert or a SQL Server evangelist, and I had a really hard time with those terms because I didn't consider myself an expert. I didn't consider myself good enough to be an evangelist. And then something interesting happened. They sent me to the Microsoft Certified Master testing. It was a really interesting thing. It's now dead and gone more than a decade ago, but more than a decade ago, it was this really intense program where you'd be put together with a dozen or less of your most interesting colleagues from consulting companies, software companies, people who worked in Mexico or in Microsoft. I said Mexico, that's pretty funny. People who worked for Microsoft. And the idea is that you were going to take a test, and after that test, Microsoft could send you into any customer environment, no matter what kind of SQL Server problem they were having, and you'd be able to solve it. It had like a 75% failure rate, and most of the people who passed didn't even pass the first time. They passed the second rounds of tests. And I passed the first time. I was really excited about that. There's a picture with some of my other MCM graduates from that rotation. That was the thing that beat my imposter syndrome. I really wish that there was something like that out there that you could go through and experience to help you conquer your imposter syndrome today. Today's Microsoft certifications are not like that at all. It's just a bunch of marketing crap that they put you through because they want you to evangelize Microsoft cloud services inside your organization. Microsoft certifications today don't have anything to do with what data professionals do out in the real world. I wish you could have that experience, and I wish you could have the experience that I've had of being able to do all kinds of different things inside the SQL Server world. I feel like I'm qualified to guide you, not because I'm better than you by any means. There are lots of people out there who know more about SQL Server than I do. It's just that I've been through more pages of the book, so to speak. I've done more of this stuff around blogging, YouTubing, presenting at user groups, building scripts, building an email list, things like that. I've been doing this stuff for more than a couple of decades now, so I want to give you shortcuts to get to a finish line quickly. Not the same line that I'm at now. I'm 20 years into this, but I want to give you something where you can make progress forward and make a difference inside your career quickly. I do want to have a disclaimer here. I am not trying to convince you to do it. This is not Brent being a cheerleader saying, hey, everybody, you can do this. Let's go. A lot of people who watch this session will be sitting there with popcorn and eating and go, whew, boy, I don't want anything to do with all of that work. And that is completely and utterly okay. We all go through different cycles in our life where we have more or less free time available. There are sprints in my life, like 3 to 6 months periods, where I have no free time, where my family or my loved ones take up all of my time, or self-improvement or health issues take up all of my time. Right now, I'm selling my house and trying to move into a larger one, and it's not, believe me, it's a hot mess trying to make all that happen. So there are going to be times when you can dedicate resources to this, and times when you can't. The idea of this session here is to lay out what work would be required if you wanted to make progress so that you don't feel guilty. I know a lot of folks out there feel guilty going, I really wish that I could give back more to the community. I really wish that I could do more presenting. I really wish that I could make my job search easier, and that's okay. If you read through this list and a lot of this resonates with you and you have spare time on your hands and you want results within the next 12 months, then these are the different options that you've got available to you. We're going to go through each of them. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of each of them so that you can make smart time investments. Odds are, and me too, odds are that you can't dedicate enough time to do all of this. I certainly can't do all of this every year. There are times when I go through more and less sprints of different parts of it. Let's start with answering community questions at places like Stack Overflow, Reddit, dba.stack exchange, SQLServerCentral.com. This was the biggest way to get like internet famous for the longest time. And when Stack Overflow came out, it absolutely exploded in terms of popularity. This graph shows the number of questions and answers that were out there per time period. And it just absolutely exploded out at first. And I spent time out there too answering questions. I set up email alerts as new questions would come in. Then over at stackoverflow.com, some interesting things started to happen. They started to prevent duplicate questions. And there are only so many, this is going to sound goofy, there are only so many SQL Server questions you can ask. There are only so many error messages. So they did a good job of, as you were asking a question, they would route you to, hey, this question has already been posted. Here's what you're probably looking for. So naturally, the number of questions went down. Then ChatGPT came out, and ChatGPT is absolutely eating everything in terms of questions and answers. ChatGPT is a great way to get things like syntax help, for example. Forums do still exist. I'm personally active on Reddit, for example. But as your database tooling out there continues to improve, as things like SQL Server Management Studio starts to integrate Copilot, then online Q&A communities are going to have a tougher time succeeding. I am not saying that AI is the best way to get answers, but I am saying that if you're trying to build an online reputation, you're going to have a harder and harder time when the people that you're trying to market to are simply typing their questions into Copilot and getting the answers that they're looking for. So I don't think that answering questions is a successful route to branding. I'm not saying answering questions is bad. I still do it because it's fulfilling. I like helping people. I love being on Reddit for all kinds of reasons. There are all kinds of subreddits I like. And yeah, you could go click on my account and see the other subreddits I'm into. No, you can't have my secret subreddit name. That's totally different. I think it's a really fun way to give back, but I wouldn't recommend it as a way to do branding. Instead, let's look at our other options that are out there. Next one up, blogging. The advantages of blogging is that it's like an online resume. As you're writing posts, you are leaving behind a breadcrumb trail showing what you knew when. So that if someone Googles your name or ChatGPT's your name, these search engines and AI tools will have a rough idea of what you were doing over time. Blogging also improves your writing communication, which is what we all make a pretty good living at doing. We all have to do things like email and GitHub issues. And part of the key to making branding work with this is that every time you're writing a blog post, you want to finish the blog post with this. If you want more help with this, contact me here. That doesn't say, please hire me. That doesn't say, I'm doing consulting for this. That doesn't say the help is going to be free or paid. It just says, if you want more help with it, email me here. So that way you can start to have a private conversation with your readers about, oh, here's an easy answer for that. Or you can hire me for a weekend and I'll work on that for you at this rate. Blogging can be done anytime. Me personally, I have certain hours of the day where I feel more productive with writing than others. So that way I can go do my blog posts in the morning on some days and then schedule my blog posts out over time. Disadvantages of blogging, AI again, just like we just talked about doing answers, how that's going to be less effective over time. Blogging is going to be challenging because if you're blogging about timeless evergreen topics, how do you create an index? What order should columns be in an index? Then people are going to be more likely over time to just ask that question of ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Copilot. There is also a population that says they're less likely to do blogging because they don't want these LLMs, these large language models, to steal their work. I think that that's kind of a Don Quixote style battle. You really can't win that. There's no way. The AI is going to be fed. It is going to consume all of humanity's knowledge one way or another. Another disadvantage with this is that there's no visual connection with your readers. If your readers can see you talking, can see your mouth move, can hear your voice, they will be building a relationship with you that makes branding way easier. Thus, me doing a video here. I could just as easily have written this as a blog post, although it would probably take more time to do it the way that I would want to do it. Blogging can also feel like you're working alone in the dark for years. What I mean by that is that you may publish one good blog post after another over the course of a year, and you may only get a dozen comments on it. It may feel like your work is being flushed down the toilet, although trust me, it's not. So what does a success look like after 1 year? After 1 year, if you put work into this, you should have your own website with your own email address, not something like Gmail or Outlook, an About Me page, 10 long-form blog posts with screenshots built into them. And I say with screenshots and things like screenshots or code examples because that's one of the edges that you have still today as opposed to Copilot, Claude, those kinds of things. They don't generate accurate product screenshots. And you want to be findable in Google searches for your name. I am not concerned with you ranking number one on a blog post topic. That's really hard, especially when you're just getting started. But that's not what your goal is. Your goal is that when people search for your name, they see compelling material and they're going to be likely to subscribe to that and will put some faith in you as a writer. I'm going to give you one of my favorite role models as an example. So she's been doing a phenomenal job of putting out long form blog posts at least once a month. And they're not necessarily brand new topics that I've never read about before, but she does such a good job of putting this stuff together that I stop what I'm doing when I see one of her posts and I actually go through and read it because I know she put work into it and I'm going to learn something. When you're thinking about picking topic ideas, and I should say too, in terms of that role model, you should go click on that so that you see, or well, if you're watching the video, go type this in, go see the kind of work that I'm talking about that you should be producing after the span of a year. When you're picking topic ideas, it's really easy to think that you want to write about the kinds of stuff that impresses you, and that is not the case. You want to be writing about the stuff that you think is no big deal. Well, of course, everybody already knows this. I know this. No. Anytime that you go Google for something and the first few results aren't great, that's a good idea of something you should blog about. When you finish troubleshooting something that you haven't seen before, that's a great topic. When you have an aha moment and you suddenly understand something that you've been struggling with, or my personal favorite, when someone asks you a question and the answer seems easy or obvious to you, you are writing for your coworkers. That's a great example of a good blog post. So your 1-year schedule on how you go about doing it, the kind of work that you would have to put in order to be successful after a year. In month 1, I want you to register your domain name and set up your blog. That's all I want you to do inside the span of the first month. Or remember, this isn't a motivational thing. All you would be expected to do. So now clearly people are going to read that and go, come on, Brent, it takes 15 minutes to register a domain name and it takes 30 minutes to set up a blog on like WordPress.com or Substack. Yeah, but the thing is, you're going to be paralyzed with indecision. What should I make my blog name? Let me go for what's the best blog host out there. Am I sure I actually want to do that? And even if that just only takes 8 hours of your life, this isn't the only thing you're doing all month. You have a real job. You have friends and family. You have hobbies. You have a drinking habit. Maybe that's just me. But so there are all these other things that you're going to want to do. I don't want you to expect to accomplish a whole lot in each month. Month 2, you write the blog post that you're going to publish in month 3 and schedule it for ahead of time. Big thing with blogging is you want to write the post and then schedule it. Don't click publish as soon as you write something. You will be filled with regret the next morning. Oh, I totally forgot. This part is incorrect. Oh, I got typos over here. Instead, just click schedule. Schedule it for a month from now and then come back to it. Because also, this means that whenever it goes live, it feels like a delightful present to you. Hell, I do this with my YouTube videos too, as well, for this matter. I'll go through and schedule them and drop them in advance. And then that way, when they publish, I'm like, oh, would you look at that? I just got a notification that one of my stuff went live. I worked hard on that. And it becomes a matter of pride instead of a matter of terror when you go click publish it. Continue that throughout the course of the year. If you just do one good blog post a month and schedule it for next month, at the end of the year, you're going to have 10 good blog posts that you put a lot of thought and work into. And to me, that is a heck of a success for your first year of blogging. And it's going to be something that you're going to be proud of too as well. Next way to give back, presenting. One of the advantages of presenting is that it improves your team communication skills, being forward in meetings, being able to convey complex topics to executives. It rapidly builds a very deep bond with your attendees. People will see you, they'll be used to your voice, they'll feel like like they know you well. If you know a topic really well, it can take less time to build the presentation than it would a blog post. Because you don't have to be super anal retentive when you're just standing up and talking if you're riffing on a topic that you know very well. You still need to put time into a presentation, build out your outline well, define your audience. But sometimes this can be, if you know a topic really well, faster than writing blog posts. And this is less replaceable by AI. It is harder for AI, not impossible. Already there are like thirst trap videos on Instagram and TikTok. It is harder for AI to do a believable job of a person explaining a topic on video, conveying a personality with in-depth technical stuff. It's not impossible. It's just harder. It's in the span of like 2-3 years from now, I think it's going to become harder as well. Now, when I say writing a topic, writing out the session is a little easier, if you look at the slides for this session, these are not gorgeous slides. I didn't put any work into the look feel. This is pretty much as generic as it can get. I can crank this stuff out pretty quickly, plus it's a topic I know really well. Disadvantages of presenting. Absolutely. First and foremost, standing up in front of a camera or in front of a room full of people is not everybody's cup of coffee, and that's totally fine. When you're presenting, it only reaches the people in the room. Now, online streaming is different, and we'll talk about that. Presenting is done only at certain days at places outside of your control. What I mean by that is there are events like SQL Saturdays, Data Saturdays, conferences where you have to show up at the event and be there at a certain date and time, and you don't get to choose those. There's something about conferences that they're almost always held at times that I don't want to go to that particular place. So help me God, I am looking at UPass Summit in Seattle. I never want to see Seattle in a rainy November day again as long as I live. But there it is. There's the conference and you got to go. It's expensive if you have to travel, and your work isn't as findable online. When you present at conferences, people will be able to find your deck, but they won't be able to rewatch the experience, the magical time of when you were there. Presenting is harder for introverts. Just as a complete funny coincidence, I am wearing my Bochi the Rock t-shirt here. It's one of my favorite animes about this schoolgirl who tries to play in a rock band because it's the only way how she can avoid being an introvert or meet people even though she's an introvert. It's very funny, and she's also an alcoholic, which made me laugh a lot and resonate with me there. I'm an introvert too, and people are surprised to hear that. Being around other people usually drains me of energy. When I'm going to present, I think of it as a costume that I'm going to pull on. There was a period of my life where I actually had t-shirts that were just dedicated to presenting, and I would pull those t-shirts on and be like, all right, now I'm going to go put on my presenting costume, and I'm going to be Mr. Presenter for a little while, and then when I'm done, I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to go collapse in a corner somewhere and recover. So what does a 1-year result look like for this? A 1-year result looks like 3 presentations that you've written and then delivered to your coworkers. 3 abstracts that were submitted to local or online user groups. Callfordataspeakers.com is a great place for data platform speakers to go learn about upcoming user group availability or conference availability. And then 1 session accepted at new stars of data. Now, the middle part, you don't have a whole lot of control over whether or not conferences accept you as a presenter, because sometimes scheduling is hard, or you don't have availability, or there's an overwhelming number of sessions that are submitted. New Stars of Data is a conference, online conference, where they actually pair you with a mentor to help you get started easier, help you review your session abstract, the deck that you're going to present, help you rehearse. It's a great way to on-ramp. When you're thinking about the session that you want to write, think of it as exactly the same as the ways that I described of picking blog posts. So then your 1 year schedule to pull it off, in months 1 and 2, you're going to write your first technical or your first presentation and you're going to mark it as done. What I mean by mark it as done comes back to a great quote. It's been attributed to Steve Jobs. I have no idea if that's true, but the quote is, "Artists ship." S-H-I-P. I suppose they do the other thing too. Artists ship, meaning doesn't matter how much you love your painting. I actually know artists who've been working on the same painting for years, trying to get it absolutely perfect. At some point, you got to let it go. At some point, you got to ship it, and it's never going to be perfect. You're going to come back to it over and over again. I got some presentations that I've come back to over the course of 10 years or more, and I tweak it a little more and then go give it somewhere else. But after the second month, you're going to mark that first one as done because you got an agenda here. You're going to then go write your second presentation. Then you're going to revisit those presentations, give them to your coworkers during a lunch and learn session, and revisit and tune it again. You're going to get done with those first presentations and you're going to think they're trash. Maybe that's just me. You're going to get done giving them to your coworkers and you're going to think, oh my God, I have to edit this so much. I have to rework this. I have to put things in a different order. I got to add these other resources in. I got to take these parts out that didn't work. That's normal. The first time that I give any session, I always think of it as a rough draft. This is what rehearsals are all about. You rehearse, see what feels natural to tell you, and you can to tell yourself, and then you can kind of think of what the audience questions will be like and how you'll want to reword things in order to get it perfect. Notice that I didn't have you rehearsing it up here, because when you've only got a year and it's only on your personal time, I kind of think of the giving it to your coworkers as a rehearsal. I know there are people out there who are professional presenters who are like, no, you should rehearse your lunch and learns too. Well, in a perfect world, you would, but we only have so much time per year, and I got to get you across that finish line, and writing sessions can be time consuming. Then, in months 7 and 8, you're going to watch YouTube videos on presentation skills. You're going to pick a video like once a weekend or twice a weekend and go watch a video on presentation skills. You'll notice that I'd held this down to here. Because honestly, when you go to present, most audience members are more concerned with your technical skills, what it is that you're trying to teach. They will forgive bad presentations as long as you have good technical stuff that you're trying to present. If you focus on the delivery and not on the material, people are going to see through that like this. You're going to look like a salesperson. That's not what I want. Then in months 9 and 10, you're going to start submitting them to the local user groups and the new stars of data. And in months 11 to 12, you're going to write your third presentation and mark them as done. You may not get a public session accepted other than we're going to aim for new stars of data. You may not get one accepted throughout this entire process, and that's okay. Presenting, you can kind of see, is a lot more work. It can take a longer period of time. It brings us to live streaming and YouTube. Much like presenting, it gets you a close personal bond with your audience while improving your team communication skills. You can also do it fairly quickly. If you know a topic really well, you can hop on a live stream and start explaining that topic, and people will be interacting with you over in the chat. Unlike presenting, this can be done when you want it, whenever you feel like your peak awareness times are and your personal availability schedule, like your uptime hours. There used to be a podcast called Midnight DBAs, where these two database administrators, a husband and wife team, would get together and talk at midnight. And they built a huge following with their sessions that were all live streams done at midnight. You wouldn't think that that would be popular, but believe me, there are lots of people up 24 hours a day, depending on, well, not the same people. I mean, I suppose there are, but just not for very long periods of time. You can actually make money. It's not significant life changing money, but you can make hundreds of dollars per month live streaming and YouTubing. The more that you're online, the more you stand to make, the more your YouTube archives can tend to make. It's not enough where it's going to replace your full time job in the SQL Server community, not unless you start like selling products on top of that. In other communities, I got a friend of mine who's a game streamer who makes a good 6 figures a year doing this kind of thing. It's harder in the database space because there just aren't as many attendees. This is very little vulnerable. I don't want to say invulnerable. That's a little risky, but it's hard for AI to completely replace this because a lot of it is being personable up on the stream, answering chat questions as they come in, switching over and doing demos. That kind of thing is extremely hard for AI today. I don't think it's going to be replaced by AI in the next 10 years. Disadvantages like presenting, it is not for everyone. You have to be comfortable seeing your face on camera and hearing your voice in audio isn't for everybody. Your work is findable online, unlike presenting. It does require an investment in camera and audio gear. Doesn't have to be a 5-figure investment, but it probably is a 4-figure investment if you're going to do it right over the course of a year. What a 1-year result looks like, you're going to have your Twitch and YouTube channel set up. You're going to do 20 to 30 live stream recordings. That's kind of scary, isn't it? This is much more often than blogging and presenting, but it's not as polished, though. You're just going onto a stream with a rough agenda of something that you want to talk about, and you're just going to stream of consciousness. You're going to do a review of blog posts. There are times where I live stream, and I'm literally just reading other people's blog posts, setting up my weekly links. You're only going to have 2 or 3 streams that you're proud of, that you feel more polished, and these are all going to be findable in Google searches for your name. Your role model on this one is Kevin Feasel in the Microsoft database community. Now, Kevin's been doing this for more than a year, so his stuff looks a little bit more polished, but the kind of stuff that he's putting out and the frequency that he's putting out, that's the kind of work that you want to aim for. You can look at Kevin's view numbers and get a rough idea of what your own view number goals should look like. Picking topic ideas, this is different than blog posts or presentations because it doesn't need to be as polished. Just as a side note, Kevin's stuff usually is polished, but think of it as working with the garage door open. I absolutely love that phrase. When I'm live streaming, I'm just working with the garage door open. Maybe I'm reading blog posts, maybe I'm working on T-SQL scripts, whatever. It can even be watch me learn X. There are successful TikTok streamers who actually learn a topic live in front of you, and other people love watching that because they're learning along with you as you go. Your 1-year schedule to pull this off, this is going to be a little bit more involved. You're going to have to go get gear and set that up, things like camera, audio, and lighting. You're going to have to set up your channels. You're going to have to do streaming on certain regular times. You'll notice that I'm a bad example on this. I don't schedule my live streams in advance, so as a result, no one knows where I'm going to go, when I'm going to go live, so I don't pick up any followers on live streaming, whereas people who are successful live streamers, they do it on a certain schedule. I mentioned midnight DBAs. That's a great example where people knew that on certain days of the week at midnight, these DBAs were going to go live. Then finally, the last way to give back that we'll talk about is GitHub, doing a public code repo, building your own repository of scripts, or getting involved in helping other people build their own repositories. Advantages, it can be done on your schedule, whatever days and times work for you. You can do it in sprints. I do mine in sprints. I do like once a month or every 2 months. I'll go in and put a bunch of work into my GitHub and then just walk away for another month or two. You can gradually become very famous for it. There are people in our industry who are known on a first or full name basis where when you say, for example, Ola Hollengren, everybody knows who you're talking about and everybody uses their scripts. This is the least vulnerable to AI risks. AI is really good at solving short code problems. AI is not great at building up a comprehensive set of scripts to accomplish a challenging problem, especially something that involves industry expertise or vertical expertise like yours. It can be profitable if people hire you for help, not necessarily urgently. It's not like you're going to make money in the first year for it, but over time, as your toolkit becomes more popular, people will hire you either for consulting or for training in how you use your scripts. This is going to sound funny as an advantage, but you don't have to have people skills. Yes, you're going to get support requests via GitHub. You're going to have people filing issues for you, but you don't have to stand in front of a camera if you don't want to. Number one disadvantage for this is you have to be so aware of what your employment contract looks like. I was actually an expert witness in a case involving where a DBA took their scripts from one company, joined another company, and all they did was take their utility scripts along with them that they'd written over the years and got sued. You want to be so careful of your company's standings on your intellectual property and what's allowed to be open source. Talk to your human resources department before you start doing this. It doesn't build a deep personal bond that blogging and presenting do. I always kind of laugh at this because, like, I'll be at a conference and I'll see Ola Hollengren walk by, and I'll be like, oh my God, that's Ola Hollengren, and go run and talk to him and shake his hand and thank him for all the work that he does. And everybody else around me is like, who? I mean, that's what Ola Hollengren looks like? And then they get to be introduced to him. Whereas if you're doing live streaming, then everybody knows what you look like, what you sound like, whatsoever. It doesn't usually directly make money. At least once a year, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year, someone comes to me and says, Brent, I built this really cool thing for SQL Server DBAs. Can you help me market it? No one's using it. And then I go to their webpage and they're trying to get people to pay them $50 or $100 to use their tool. It is so hard to get anybody to pay money for a tool until they've used it and built it into their routine. Do not try to do this. You are competing with software vendors. If you want to work for a software vendor, go work for a software vendor. They have teams of salespeople. They have support staff. They have multi-currency handling and taxes and all that good stuff. But don't try to take that on yourself. I certainly wouldn't. I don't know anyone in the SQL Server industry who's successful at. That's not true. I know one person who, I don't know that I would say successful. They still have a day job. What a one-year result looks like here is you'd have your GitHub repo set up, at least one script built, your README documentation and your tutorials written. Then you'd have links from other people's blogs and videos saying how much they use and like your tool and how to get access to it. To make this all happen inside the span of a year, here's what your 1 year schedule would look like. The building is the first few months, and then after the first few months, your biggest work is going to be handing it to someone and saying, hey, can you give me feedback on this? Seeing whether or not they give you feedback, and then doing whatever tweaks that you need to either the tool or the documentation to work better. Then finally evangelizing it on the larger sites like Reddit and SQL Server Central so more and more people can start to see the work that you've done. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of this stuff around branding. This GitHub stuff is actually a great example of doing good work and talking about it. It doesn't matter whether you're doing GitHub, repos, blogs, whatever. You have to do both. You have to put in the work, and then you have to market it. And it can feel really slimy marketing it. If I go back one slide to GitHub, it can feel really slimy jumping onto Reddit and saying, hey, everyone, this is this tool that I built. Can you check it out and give me feedback? It can feel slimy, but this is what we have to do. Real world is not a build it and they will come. The real world is that we have to actually tell people so that we can get that snowball rolling to getting the results that we want. So, over the span of the last few minutes here, I wasn't trying to convince you. My whole goal was just to lay out all your different options. If you look at this, you sit back, you finish your popcorn, and you go, there is no way I'm ever going to do that. That's completely fine. I still love you anyway. Or at least I love you as much as when the presentation started, dear stranger. If you decide to prioritize your life and not work on these things, that's fine. As a good friend of mine, Lori Edwards, likes to say, and I absolutely love to quote, the people that you really work for are waiting for you at home. Never forget that the real goal of anything that we do in order to give back, in order to improve our career or whatever, we've got to make sure to take care of our loved ones and friends first. If you do decide to go out and give back via one of these methods, some of these methods are going to feel more intuitive to you. For example, if you don't want to be on a specific schedule and you don't want to have FaceTime up and running and to have cameras looking at you while you work, blogging in Github may feel more natural to you. On the other hand, if you love the attention, if you were the kind of person who was in chorus or in drama club when you were in school, you may find that you want frequent casual FaceTime up with live streaming. But no matter which one you change or which one you choose, you should expect to spend 2 to 3 full days per week, per month working at it. Doesn't have to be every single weekend, but if you don't spend at least 2 to 3 days per month working at it, you're probably not going to succeed. All right, so that's everything that I wanted to teach all inside this session. For the blog, for the slides for this, plus other relevant talks that I've given around community, careers, and professional development, head over to brentozar.com/career. If you have questions, you're welcome to post them on the YouTube or down on the comments underneath. Or if you like, you can also email me over at help@brentozar.com. Hope that you had fun. Hope you learned something. And feel free to hit like and subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. And I will see you around. Adios.